1. This happened in August 1997 at a 5-star hotel in New Jersey, right across the Hudson River from New York City. At this hotel, my band had a sweet gig for a very big, very lavish wedding reception, and everything went great. We did a lot of shows, but this night was one of the best shows we ever did when everything went better than perfect. There was magic in the air that night. When it was all over, late that night, we broke down our gear and loaded everything in my old van, congratulated each other on the great show we did, and the band got in their cars and left. All of us lived over 100+ miles away. But when I tried to start my van, it was just dead. Would not start, and I knew it had problems recently, but I thought it would last a little longer. This sucked so bad. But not as bad as it would have sucked if I didn't make it to this wedding gig. I was over 100 miles from home. I couldn't call anyone in the band because my van was the only vehicle that could fit all the gear, and my brand new 1997 cell phone had not many phone numbers in it yet. So there was nothing left to do but check in that night and deal with it in the morning. Someone from the wedding saw my situation, felt my pain, and got me a free room. One of the many they had booked for the wedding and was vacant, so that was very cool. The night front desk guy recommended a great mechanic for me, and I didn't know anyone in this town, so I was grateful for that. My plan now was to get it towed in the morning. I had to unload all my speakers, lights, amps, guitars, everything into my room, since it's getting towed to who knows where in the morning. All I have to wear is my tuxedo, no other clothes. I could not stay another day at this hotel because the next day they were 100% booked, so I called and booked a small U-Haul truck to come and collect my gear. Next morning, hot as hell summer day, my van gets towed to the mechanic, and I took a cab to the U-Haul place wearing my tux shirt and pants. Took me a couple of hours to do all that and get the U-Haul. This old truck they gave me looked like the most beat-up, dirty, dented U-Haul in their whole national fleet, but it did the job and I wasn't complaining. I drove back to the hotel to pick up my gear with this decrepit U-Haul, wearing a tuxedo, and in the parking lot, I see there's a lot of action going on at this place now. Parking lot is packed, a TV news crew out front, lots of cop cars, and the place is very crowded. So I'm curious for sure. I pull up to the front entrance and someone yells, "That's him! That's him!" And I'm looking around wondering, who's him? Suddenly, out of nowhere, a SWAT team pulls me out of the truck, slams me down on the ground. They're screaming and cursing, 5 knees on my back and a police canine dog barking in my face. I try to talk and I'm commanded to, "Shut the fuck up, motherfucker, we got you, fuckhead." That's when the front desk girl came running out screaming, "That's not him, that's just the wedding singer, let him go, I know him." That's how the front desk girl saved my ass. I still have no idea what the fuck is going on at this point, and they didn't get off me that fast. I'm still pinned. She explains my whole story with the wedding band, my gear in the room, my broken down van, and the rented U-Haul, and eventually they let me up and give me a 2-second apology and angry orders to "Load up and get this fucking truck out of here fast." Now, my tuck shirt and pants are all torn up and filthy and stinky after sweating last night during the show, and more sweaty on this hot August day. I'm a wreck. How this happened. What happened was the UPS company was dealing with the largest strike in terms of striking workers that the company had seen thus far. Almost 100% of the UPS workers who were members of the Teamster Union were involved in the strike. During the strike, UPS losses were over 600 million. They were having fierce negotiations with the Teamsters to settle this strike at this hotel that day, and it was a very conscientious event. The police had a believable bomb threat tip that they took very seriously, and when I drove up looking like a dirty slob wearing a tuck shirt, driving this old beat-up U-Haul to this 5-star hotel, they thought I was the bomber. And my truck was the bomb. If they thought I was a terrorist bomber, I don't know why the fuck they didn't stop me before I got to the entrance. I collected my gear from the room as fast as I could and left. What was one of the greatest nights turned into one of the hardest, weirdest days of my life. To add to the bizarre events of this day, when I finally got home that night, I turned on my TV to see the New York City local news is reporting about a bomb scare at the hotel with the UPS strike negotiations. They're showing a few-second video clip that shows me from a distance, looking like a total slob in ripped-up tuck shirt, loading my speakers in the U-Haul. I was pissed they didn't interview me. It would have been a great story and would have been the greatest plug for the band. Thank God I took the time in the morning to chat with the front desk girl to tell her my whole story about my van and the U-Haul, or it could have been a lot worse with those cops. 2. Management made life interesting at the last property I was employed. This property was owned by an older Indian gentleman who was planning on giving it to his son and his son's wife, our Indian princess. She was such an insufferable status-chasing money grubber that her husband left her for one of the many white trash ladies employed as front desk at the time. So he was disowned by his family, who took in the princess as their own daughter, and this is how she became the GM of this particular establishment. The beginning. I had been there all of a month, maybe 2. This was my first hospitality gig ever. When she came to me, said, "Hey, you're in charge for the next 2 months, myself, and the family are going to India." I said respectfully, "Look, I'm not sure I can do that. I didn't know about the day-to-day, as all I'd worked was the first shift and a few audits at the time." She assured me I'd be fine, and there would be no surprises as she'd taken care of everything. The second week of my 2 months as the "oh shit, I'm in charge" guy, I get a call. It's from a senior citizen tour bus company confirming 42 of our 44 rooms for 2 days from then. I look in the system and nope, no block. So I look at the inventory and we are sold completely out for the time period that they will be here. So yeah, I panic and start blowing up phones, but thanks to the time difference, it's a good 12 hours before I get a call back. I ask, what the actual fuck? She says, "Yeah, I forgot about that, but don't worry, I have a friend coming to handle it." By handle it, she meant cancel all of the reservations we had, and then give those rooms to the tour company. Did they bother to call any of those reservations and inform them of this? Of course not. So while I'm working a 16-hour shift, I'm checking in the tour company and trying to find 40-something rooms to walk these other guests to. That was a nightmare, my friends. It almost broke me, but I persevered. Also, during this period, the hotel phones were turned off because she wouldn't pay the bill. Then there was a time she almost killed a Holocaust survivor because she was too lazy to drive 5 minutes and unlock a safe. I'm chilling at the desk, having my coffee, when this ancient lady comes to the desk and says her safe won't open. So I go up and check, and sure enough the batteries are dead. Now this isn't a huge problem, but one that needs the master key to unlock the safe, which she won't give me because she trusts no one but herself. So I explain to the lady that I cannot open the safe, and the GM is unavailable to do so until Monday morning at 10 a.m. This was a Saturday morning. It was around then that I noticed the telltale tattoo on her arm. She is understandably upset and is threatening us with calling the police and lawsuits, as her daughter is a lawyer in New York City. I again call Indian Princess and she refuses to budge, saying the lady can wait. I then tell her, "Look, you're about to be responsible for the death of a person that the literal Nazis couldn't kill." This apparently shook her from her apathy, and she made the 5-minute drive to very angrily unlock the lady's safe. We served your typical hotel shit breakfast. Eggs, biscuits, that kind of fare. The eggs came in vinegar-soaked bags that were literally kept under lock and key. Nothing else in this hotel was locked down except for the eggs. When I asked about it one day, I was told that they didn't want the staff stealing eggs. Cash drawer unlocked. Maintenance shed with thousands of dollars in tools unlocked. All storage closets unlocked. But not that egg fridge, that shit was guarded like gold. I had a Dodge contractor she owed money to on almost a daily. And it was getting to the point they were getting mad at me because she would tell them she would be there at a certain time to cut them checks and never show. This was an all-the-time thing. She would only work from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. So if at 3 when my relief was to be there and they didn't show, I was on a 16-hour shift with an hour ride home, and an hour's ride to be back at 7 a.m. She refused to allow us to use a room to sleep when this happened, saying if we wanted to use a room, we could book and pay the rack rate. So somehow, in all of this, I got conned into a salary position for 40 hours a week, and anything over that was overtime. I was regularly putting in 60 to 80 hours a week covering for her and other employees. Then, when checks came out, I had my salary rate and no overtime. When asked about this, I was told I was mistaken and to be happy with what I got. So someone called the labor board and made an anonymous complaint. Oops. Fast forward about a month and the labor board is in-house conducting an investigation. 4 months later, a team meeting is called and we are given checks for our back pay and damages. I got about 10 grand. She then looked at me and said all positions are being removed as well as all vacation and holiday pay, and everyone in staff was getting cut to 10 hours. I looked at my check, laughed and said, "Fuck you, I'm out." I then took a few months off and found a really great small property to work at with an awesome owner and GM who actually gives a fuck. 3. We just found out last week our hotel has been sold and will be closing middle of August. The new buyer isn't going to use the building as a hotel, we've been told. Additionally, we are all still in a lockdown phase in Ontario, Canada, and indoor pools aren't allowed to be open until the 3rd phase of reopening. We are currently in the 2nd phase for about 2 more weeks. Since we will be closing shortly after the 3rd phase is set to begin, we have decided we won't be reopening the pool at all, and the new buyers had us drain it so it's empty now. Guest, from here on referred to as Cranky, checked in on Saturday for 2 nights, 2 adults, 1 child, and a dog in the room. Booked through a third party, of course. Cranky is from inside of Ontario, so she should be well aware of our lockdown and reopening plan as well. Shortly after check-in, she came back to the desk with photos on her phone of some soap scum in the bathroom of her room. I apologized and offered a room move, and seeing how many of them were in the room, I offered them 2 adjoining rooms instead of 1 at the same cost, so they would have more space. We haven't been close to sold out since before COVID, so it wouldn't be a problem at all. Cranky was quite happy. She would be able to close a door between her and her grandson, and happily took the move. I saw the guest come back later, and now she also had her son with her, so 3 adults, 1 child, and a dog. I guess since I gave her more space, she decided to invite more people to her room. I didn't really hear anything from her until that Monday morning. They came down to our breakfast area at 9:50, breakfast ends at 10, and side note that we are not a hotel that typically offers free breakfast. We had a full restaurant before COVID and breakfast was an extra charge. We are offering grab-and-go breakfast as a courtesy. It is not a requirement for our brand. Cranky was upset that there are no more sausage breakfast sandwiches in the fridge, and only 3 egg and cheese sandwiches left. I offered to get them more egg and cheese, but the hotel was completely out of the sausage ones they had the day before. Cranky then asked if I had any more powdered coffee whitener, since she doesn't like real cream, and again I happily got her some. As the whole family was heating up their breakfast sandwiches, she came over to me at the desk again. "You know, the whole reason we booked here is because it says on your website the pool would be open after June 30th. I'm sorry, but we're currently still in lockdown, and indoor pools are not permitted to be open until the 3rd phase of reopening. It would be the same as every hotel in Ontario. Well, OTA says you would be open on the 30th. I can see right now on OTA where it says, due to our COVID, our pool is closed. I can also see that you received an automatic message from the property when you booked, which states that the pool is currently closed. I'm going to get my phone and show you where it says your pool is open. I would be happy to see that so I can make sure we get it fixed, but even if it said that in one place, there are 2 other places which do state that the pool is closed. So the pool will be open in Phase 3? Indoor pools are allowed to be open during the Phase 3 reopening. However, we found out last week that our hotel has actually been sold, and we won't be reopening the pool at all before we close permanently in mid-August. If you look, the pool has actually been completely drained.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
After this, Cranky went back to her room and never did come show me her phone. I did check and find one spot on OTA where our pool had been marked closed until June 30th. So I updated that. But there were still 2 other places where it clearly said the pool was closed. If she wasn't sure or the pool was the only reason she was booking, she should have called first to make sure. Then I come in today and lo and behold, Cranky has left us a review on OTA.
Our first room was dirty. The second rooms had no microwaves, and the hair dryers didn't work. The main reason I booked this hotel was because it was pet-friendly and the swimming pool, which was supposed to be open Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. The pool was empty. They ran out of breakfast sandwiches. The rooms were definitely not up to the usual standard, and one of the desk staff was pretty sour. When I asked about the pool being open as stated in their website, or at least what I saw after my reservation through OTA, she got huffy. I wouldn't go back to this hotel.
What I wanted to say in response? Not all of our rooms have microwaves, and they're not advertised as having microwaves at all. We had more, but since we sold, our management company has moved a lot of our microwaves to another of their properties. I wasn't even aware your first room had a microwave in it, but if you had wanted one, I would have moved the one from your first room to your new room. I find it hard to believe that in the 2 rooms you had for the price of one, neither hairdryer worked, but again, we would have happily fixed that for you if you had told us. Even if everywhere in the whole website said the pool was open, which it didn't. You should be aware that we are in a lockdown, and pools are not allowed by the government to be open. We did not run out of sandwiches. We ran out of your preferred style of sandwich, and we didn't have to give you breakfast at all. And I most certainly was not sour or huffy, though I am sour now. What I actually responded, "Thank you for your review." 4. Last year, I submitted a story about Secret Agent Coahw of the FBI, or CIA, or Microsoft, or whatever popped into his head at the moment. Perhaps you remember it. Sad to say, no one here in this small wine country California town has seen him in at least 6 months. So as much as I would love to give you another story about what is undeniably the worst con man I have ever encountered, I unfortunately cannot. I just hope that he hasn't overdosed in a drainage pipe somewhere. He was far too entertaining. Instead, I will regale you with a tale, one which I call The Saga of the Gay Caballero. It was the summer of 2019, so things were normal, which means chaotic. Being in wine country, and a mere 20 minutes from some of the most beautiful beaches on the California coast, we were sold out every weekend, and many weekdays to boot. Tours, travelers, wine tasters, and above all, my nemesis as a night auditor, weddings. I honestly would rather have half the hotel filled with 2 rival teams of teenage football players than one suite of bridesmaids. Take 6 20-something women from entitled families of the type that can afford to have a wedding in peak season in wine country, have them attend what is, for them, essentially a gigantic social orgasm. Follow it up with a long reception party and too much of the aforementioned wine, and pour them into a hotel room. Now comes the fun at 3:15 a.m. Tell them to be quiet. They're physically incapable, but I digress. Yes, this has to do with the wedding party, but not the bridesmaids. No, it was a pair of the attending guests, who were among the rather large contingent of 15 or so rooms in our hotel that night. They had a room with 2 beds, but I grew up in California not far from San Francisco. I have a highly developed gaydar. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Guest number 1, we'll call him Mr. Top, had an address in London, yes, that London, not the one in Kentucky, with the accent to match. He was a fairly tall black man and incredibly well built. I honestly think he may have been, or at least should have been, a model of some kind. His companion was guest number 2, aka the Gay Caballero. 5'7", maybe. A scrawny little white guy with a bushy biker from the village people mustache dressed as a cowboy. Sort of. He was in cowboy duds, the same way Taco Hell is real Mexican food. It was like he was an actor in a 1958 production of Oklahoma. Sorry, Oklahoma! Or something. No hat, but perfectly pressed, unstained, unfaded designer blue jeans. Burgundy, yes, burgundy cowboy boots with decorative stitching, and one of those long-sleeved cowboy shirts you'd see in old episodes of westerns written by people from New York. A red shirt with a print, and those scalloped pockets with pearl snap buttons. Top it off with a blue bandana around the neck. I swear he looked like a mustachioed Howdy Doody. It's howdy doody time, is howdy. He was even a redhead, and thin enough to have been a marionette. Not that there's anything wrong with that, looking like Howdy Doody. Doody being the operative word here. Stick around at the end of the story. You'll see. So the wedding happens on a Saturday, and Mr. Top and the gay caballero attend. After the return of the party, Mr. Top approached the front desk, just as I got on shift at 11. "Say, mate, is there a place round here we could get a drink?" My great mistake was saying yes. I told him about a little bar about an 8-minute walk away. It was a local dive bar, very popular with the residents of the town, not so much with tourists. Rougher looking than it actually is, but open late. We call it Bandits. So Mr. Top takes his caballero off to Bandits around 11 p.m. Just before 2 in the morning, the automatic lobby doors open, and Mr. Top comes in, shirt unbuttoned, sweating profusely. And when I say profusely, I mean it looked like he'd just come out of the shower. Yes, it's July on the California coast, and yes, it's about 70 degrees outside at 2 a.m. 21 or 22 degrees centigrade for my European friends. But he really shouldn't have been sweating that much. Even if he ran, he shouldn't have been huffing and puffing that much. "Oi, when my friend gets here, just give him a key, right?" "Is he okay? What happened?" "He's just pissed me off. I'm going to bed." And off he goes. Now, I know that taking ecstasy can result in profuse sweating, and is very popular in the non-heterosexual community in California. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Honestly, as a night auditor, I don't care at all what you do as long as A, you don't damage our rooms, and B, do it quietly. 5 minutes later, in walks or rather stumbles a gay caballero. He weaved up to the desk in his howdy-doody shirt and bandana, sweating bullets, and was able to get out, "I need a key." I obliged, but had to tell him 3 times which room number he was in, and I still wasn't convinced that he got it. To be honest, he was acting like someone who had just dropped Jimi Hendrix levels of acid on top of the X that I already suspected. He meandered off, but turned the wrong way. Then I heard one of the lobby restroom doors open and close. Almost half an hour later, I see him walking, I'm being generous here, it was shuffling, through the lobby on his way to his room, pulling up his pants, his Johnson swinging in the breeze. One burgundy cowboy boot on, one in his hand. By the time I got through the office and lobby to him, he had his pants up, and I gently escorted him to his room. I thought that was the end of it, but my nightmare was just beginning. Shortly thereafter, I made a check of the parking lot and started walking the halls. As I got back to the desk and past the lobby restrooms, I noticed a smell. Tentatively, I opened the door of the first 2. Perfectly fine. Then I opened the second, and it hit me. On a cursory glance, there was nothing wrong, but quickly I noticed what appeared to be small smears of peanut butter everywhere. On the sink, on the toilet stall, on the floor, on the walls, as if someone with peanut butter on their hands had been touching things without realizing they were doing it. Yeah, we'll call it peanut butter. Anyway, seeing this, I said in my best Damon Wise impersonation, "Oh, hell no," and decided I'd just slap an out-of-order sign on it and leave it for the poor dumb houseman to deal with in the morning. At this point, it's 3 a.m. and I have paperwork and breakfast prep to do, so, hey, houseman, it sucks to be you. It sucks to be you. Another hour goes by. It's now 4 a.m., and I do my rounds again. This time, the smell in the hallway outside the restroom has become really overwhelming, and I couldn't figure it out. There wasn't enough peanut butter in there to account for it. Then I looked across the hall at our guest laundry. A small room with coin-operated machines, open all night, directly across from the lobby restrooms. Now, this is all just speculation, but here's what I think may have happened. The gay caballero, not that there's anything wrong with that, went to the restroom, crept in his pants, and then tried unsuccessfully to clean it up, dabbing peanut butter all over. Then, looking across the hall, he sees guest laundry and thinks, I can fix it. But while he was in there trying to wash his underwear, old Mother Nature called again, and he was unable in his ecstasy Hendrix funk to even find the door to the restroom, which he had just left, and is directly across the hall. Yeah, in the washing machine I find a pair of tight burgundy, I think is his color, briefs with shit all over them. And you know how you have to clean the lint screen on the dryer? We have a small trash can in the laundry room for lint, but there was a bit more in it on this particular night. Apparently there was a kind of any port in a storm thing going on in his drug-addled head, and I found an epic steamer. Howdy doodies doody. It had to have been 5 pounds at least in this poor little trash can. I didn't know if I should flush it, or name it, maybe get it a onesie. This was a public space, so I did the nasty, gloved up, masked up, and cleaned it up. Ran the washing machine with double detergent loads 3 times, and sprayed air freshener like a madman until 5 in the morning. No one was the wiser. The cherry on top of this gigantic turd of a night? Once he got back to his room, he passed out in bed, and multitudes of various effulva proceeded forth. We charged Mr. Top almost $3,000 in damages and cleaning fees, and there were no complaints. So the next time you think you're having a shitty night, remember that it could be worse. You could meet the gay caballero. Not that there's anything wrong with that. 5. I work as a front desk associate for a privately owned inn. I've been yelled at, called names, and yada yada. I've dealt with them. However, yesterday was a surprise. I have nothing against anyone from anywhere, and this is nothing against anyone from anywhere either. A very tall, bleach-blonde, older, I believe, German woman came in. We had one room that wasn't used, but it's a 2 minimum night for walk-ins. Although my boss did say that whoever books the room online to give it to them for that night. Well, she asked if we had a room. I told her my line about the room. She booked it via online. Okay, no problem. So I checked her in. Cool. Not even half an hour later, she comes to the desk and rings a bell again. I do the laundry for the whole place as a second shift employee, and it's down in the basement. I run upstairs and see what's going on. This woman starts yelling at me like a crazy woman about a fly in the pool room. Well, the inn is in a wooded area, and the area has a ton of lakes. What else do you expect? We are exceptionally clean, and every shift has to mop and clean the whole pool room. I explained this to her, as she was dripping wet on the tile and her makeup running. I was pleasant, but she was pressing it. She requested her money back, but we can't do that after you've checked in, and it is in bold, large letters when you sign the paperwork. And I explained this to her as well. So she went and changed back into her clothes about 10 minutes later, and rang the bell again. This time 5 or 6 times. I was down in the basement finishing a load of laundry. Came back up and she continues to yell at me. So I called my AGM and asked her what I should do. She told me to call the GM. Okay, so I did. Now, my GM is awesome, the most soft-spoken woman and very level-headed. She said she will be there in 15. I told the woman I had contacted my boss's boss. Good, this lady replied. While I waited for my GM, I was taking care of a family with 4 kids that wanted to go swimming. This woman interrupted me while I was speaking with them about the rules to tell them not to spend any money with us because of a bug problem. And I'm very rude and a bitch. In front of children, mind you. This family comes and swims every Saturday or Sunday, the regulars. I let them into the pool room, and they wished me the best of luck. I left. Less than 15 minutes later, my GM pulls up. I point her to the woman. This lady thought she had won with her smug grin towards me. I go back to what I was doing. About 10 minutes later, after the woman very abruptly leaves, I ask my GM what happened. My GM, bless her for being a short, red-headed older lady, looks right at me and smiled. She looked down at the ground and shook her head. She looks back at me and tells me everything. The woman called me a bitch again, to her, and hoped I would get fired for being so rude. Demanded a refund that was declined. My GM showed her the paperwork as it's in the clause that this woman signed. I do tell every guest that checks in that it is non-refundable once they check in. So my GM continues about how the woman berated her and said how unclean we are because of a couple of bugs in the pool room. Apparently, from what my GM said, was that the woman went to hand my GM the key to her room and purposely dropped them on the floor and said, "Whoops!" So my GM and I go and check the room. This woman ripped off all the covers on the beds, took all the covers off the cushions on the couch, and threw most of the towels all over the room. She, I assume, took the remaining towels and drenched them with water and threw them on the bathroom floor. She also ripped the shower head out of the wall and sprayed a very large area of the room outside of the bathroom. The bathroom was soaking wet from top to bottom. She even had time to eat since there was a to-go box in the garbage. This woman, I swear to God, was one of the worst. Her whole demeanor was of a spoiled, entitled brat that doesn't like being told no. She was so rude and so haughty. I almost lost my shit. The owner is pursuing a case against her for damages to the room, and for the cleaning and maintenance of everything. They had to hire someone to clean up all the water that soaked into the carpet, and a crew for repairs. So she's gonna get a hefty fine. This is what my AGM told me. Not sure how much, but I don't think it's gonna be pretty. So, yeah. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 67. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories and sent in stories for use in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like, comment, and subscribe. I always like to leave this part to the end of the videos. I figure by that point I've actually done something, so it's alright to ask. Right, okay, where are we? This goes up on Wednesday. I think we have Revenge on Thursday. Yeah, that's fine. Well, either somebody's running an engine of some kind outside, or a really long fart. Not sure if that's been picked up on the mic. Whatever. Anyway, where was I? Ah, yes, I was getting distracted. Busy day ahead of me today. I made a list of things I need to do. It turned out to be quite lengthy. Only the start of which was make 2 videos, which I had most of the audio recorded for, and then lots of tidying and stuff. Don't think I need to do anything outside today. I'm not sure if it's going to rain or not. It's quite warm, but it's also a little dull at the moment, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time. Oh no, that's definitely getting picked up in the mic. Anyway, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.